a debt of love and gratitude for the Council itself, congruent, as I see it, with the sentiments advanced by Father Britton in his call for a recovery and a deeper appreciation of the actual vision of the Council. Father Britton points out that the time will soon come when no one is left who will remember being at the Council, no one whose life will have encompassed both an experience of the Council and an experience of its aftermath. I was too young to be present at the Council, but I do remember its earliest implementation, as I was 14 years old when the Council concluded. I was too young to care about, or even know about, church politics, but not too young to have had a vivid impression of the liturgical reforms as they were phased in. I was absolutely thrilled. My grandmother was not. Repeatedly, she voiced her distaste, regret, and apprehension at the systematic, though gradual obsolescence of Latin in favor of English, as well as at the reform in gesture, manner of celebrating, and so on. I could not understand her concerns. I do remember realizing with some dim sense of alarm that this was a point of no return, and I remember regretting that there would no longer be a universal liturgical language in the Church. But these feelings were overshadowed by the enthusiasm I felt for finally being able to understand the Mass and to experience it as a living act in which I could participate directly. The Mass had not seemed to be mine in any significant way, but rather something that was done principally by the specialists in the sanctuary, the priest and servers. We were not just observers, but the sense that we were not just observers was to a large extent dependent on the parts of the Mass that were in English and facing the people, namely, the Gospel reading, the homily, and the announcements. The last Gospel was also in English, and though it was not read facing the people, I did feel I participated in that weighty moment of utter solemnity and felt a special love for it because I could understand it in all of its poetical gravity. Couldn't we have followed along in the Missal, in English translation, you might ask? Well, yes. That is, if you could even hear the priest. It was nice that now, due to the reforms, we would be able to hear the Mass celebrated. To a varying extent, the prayers of the priest were then often said in a low voice that was inaudible, especially since the words were spoken by someone turned away from the assembly. Also, to read a translation is at the same time to be aware that one is, by that very fact, in some significant sense, outside the celebration, which would be otherwise inaccessible. So many other markers seemed to reinforce that feeling of being outside. Even the sense of reverence and awe associated with the Eucharist could itself be another marker that the Eucharist belonged, essentially, to the priests, whose hands had been specially anointed, as the nuns preparing us for First Communion had told us, while ours had not been. One would no sooner think of picking up a dropped host, should something so unthinkable ever occur, than of painting graffiti on the church walls. Along with the appropriate feeling of being unworthy of the Eucharist, there was the additional feeling of somehow being intrinsically impure, ritually impure, which is different entirely. My grandmother, I remember, went to communion only once a year to do her Easter duty at the last possible moment, and she brushed not only her teeth that morning, but her tongue. The change to English and to the posture of facing the people made me feel as though I were accepted and included in this very important and sacred act. I felt as though I belonged, and that it was important that I played my part, and that the liturgy would in some way be lessened, though just as efficacious sacramentally if I did not. I am a cradle Catholic of the most standard variety. I have no dramatic stories of conversion or mystical experiences to report, but simply the dull gratitude for being a member of a church I am sure I would have not had the courage to join if God had not, in His love, seen fit to bring me into this life in an extended family of practicing believers. I'm a member of the lay faithful, ordinary in every way. Yet I remember one moment of special intensity. For some reason, one Sunday, I had taken home a monthly missalette, and during the week began to read the text of the Mass in English